So I'm not talking about Belt and Road Initiative. I wanted to talk about transnational innovation as a shaping force in European-Asian relations. The idea here is, innovation is something that's extremely sensitive. We are talking about the future here. In Germany, we have a big discussion that we are selling our future, that we are selling our technology to China, and people are getting afraid of that. I want to make a different point. I want to make the point that innovation, the character of innovation has changed in recent years, and that we are now observing, at least in certain areas, something which I call transnational innovation, which gives new meaning to space and also makes new requirements to innovation policy and our understanding to inter-areal interaction. Here we go. Knowledge increases exponentially on a global scale. So each year we have much more information available. Knowledge is becoming more and more. And if you don't believe this 2020 IBM data, I don't believe it actually myself. What we can believe is that artificial intelligence is doubling processing capacity, and that means knowledge as well, every 3.5 months. So every 3.5 months, the neural networks of artificial intelligence double our capacity to process knowledge and get something new. So what are the drivers of the knowledge increase? Well, I think we have two major things which are important here. First of all, we've got globalization. So that means it allows a combination of innovation resources which are scattered all over the world at dramatically reduced transaction costs. So we see greatly improved connectivity. We have better compatibility of national institutions. At least we have seen that in the last couple of decades. Last couple of years, 2 years might have reduced that a little bit. We have joint platforms in terms of language. I mean, we are sitting here all talking in English. We have joint IT systems, scientific standards, etc., etc. So the world is getting flatter in a certain way, and we do have hugely increased data processing power. I've just been talking about artificial intelligence. And then we have something which I call data-driven interdisciplinarity. If you go back 250 years, then we still had this notion of global geniuses. Individuals which are comprising the total of human knowledge in their brains, Goethe or Leibniz, whatever. And that notion was completely lost with the idea that, or with the development that knowledge became more and more compartmentalized. The knowledge we had became so large, a single brain was unable to deal with that. I think this is changing now, once again, but not embodied in human brains, but in computers, if you want, in artificial intelligences. But this allows now to combine knowledge from the field of chemistry with knowledge from evolutionary biology with knowledge from economics. And this allows to get new insights, to have new perspectives on issues and find new solutions which until now have not been possible. And this is a completely new development which is changing our innovation tracks. So what is transnational innovation, modern transnational innovation in this context? It means the creation of innovation by combining already existing, but until then spatially or sectorally isolated, unconnected knowledge. It means we have a transnational patchwork where resources and creative ideas are being combined from various locations. We see that innovation communities become superimposed on national boundaries and national institution systems. Yeah? Look at a company like BASF, I mean, or Siemens, or whatever, or Huawei. All these companies have innovation networks which are not clustering just in one place or in one economy, but they are clustered all over the world. Huawei has innovation clusters in Düsseldorf, in Shenzhen, in Silicon Valley, and in Bangalore. Yeah? And these are just the 4 most important ones. So we have here corporate structures which create innovation space, which is completely different from our former understanding of Huawei or a company being confined to the innovation space of the Chinese innovation system. That's wrong. We do find companies which are shopping around in the global system for the resources and institutions they require for their innovation processes, for their product design, for their product development. So we have a disconnect here of industries and firms from national innovation systems. And by themselves, these innovation communities also by themselves are increasingly featuring ambiguous outer borders and behave like open networks. They are becoming mob-like amorphous systems. So all this, of course, creates challenges to individuals, firms, and as well as nation states. And if we talk about nation states, then of course we talk about innovation policy. Yeah? So what are the 4 parameters? Knowledge creation, or 3. Knowledge creation is increasingly compartmentalized. Individual expertise is in smaller and smaller areas, increasingly tiny. It's relying on intersectoral cross-fertilization, and it's detached from space. So local manifestation of knowledge, creation, ownership, implementation, consumption becomes completely disconnected. So the question is, how can we keep pace with the knowledge explosion in this new environment? First of all, individual efforts must become integrated in team efforts. We do no longer have these genius Leibniz or Gauss type people. Firms need to develop a global reach. No local cluster alone will be able to maximize innovation output, or even to collect all the required input for new product development. And nation states need to facilitate powerful linkages to other innovation centers, external innovation hubs I've called it here, in order to participate in that. So we need linkages. Yeah? We must create strong national innovation hubs, but we must link them to the other innovation hubs we have on a global scale. So going alone strategy doesn't work. So I jump over that. If we go into theory, that would imply that we have a new allegory for innovation theory. I'm modeling that on the idea of old trade theories. So we're moving away from the old Ricardo type innovation world, where you have marked differences in factor endowments of the national economies, no or very little mobility of key production factors, and local specialization is determined by factor endowments. Today, we are rather living in a Krugman type innovation world, where we have similar factor endowments of national economies. We have economies of scale and scope, a loss of marginal cost as a key parameter, which are determining local specializations, and network effects may shape technology trajectories. So innovation in a flattened world would then imply that specialized local innovation clusters evolve, which are globally connected. And local innovation clusters are then distributed across the world with specific patterns, which are determined more or less chaotically, or based on specific minor impulses which then create path dependencies. The idea is that the old idea promulgated or brought forward by OECD, that we have national innovation systems, this old paradigm, I think it's lost a lot of its luster. It's no longer that important because we've got the global scheme there. Now, what is the role for national innovation policies in such a flattened innovation world? First of all, can nation states enforce a localization of global innovation clusters in their territory? Clear no. Certainly not. And this is also something, a learning for many economies who are right now trying to go it alone, that simply doesn't work anymore. And we're talking here about innovation clusters in China, as well as such in the United States. But can nation states create gravitational pull to attract innovation, to attract entrepreneurs, engineers, creative people, yes, they can. They can create favorable environments by fully integrating into the global institutional network, by opening borders, by creating high connectivity. So we're talking here about capital, labor, data, IPR, and this is of course also a message to China, where we right now seeing substantial problems in internet connectivity, free flow of data. Yeah. So here we've got actually an institutional hindrance in China to integrate itself into the global innovation network. Of course, we do need high capacity R&D infrastructure. Large domestic markets, of course, are very important. This is one of the key assets China does have right now, and high capacity for generation and processing of data. Once again, something China does have and is playing to its full potential right now. So this is my final slide. So if we take all that, what can we learn from that, or what ideas can we take out of that for strengthening of European East Asian relations? Well, what we need is certainly improved coordination of national regulations in order to increase the connectivity, to make it possible to have these Chinese and European innovation hubs link up even better and create better value, and to become as independent as possible from rogue locations which are no longer playing along the game, along the old rules. We are talking here about patent registration and exclusivity for the sharing of innovation. We are talking here about regulatory guidelines for proprietary rights on digital data, and I know there's a substantial dialogue right now going on between China and the European Union on these issues. Ms. Merkel was talking about this in China just yesterday, or the day before yesterday. So this is certainly a very important issue. Hosting requirements, disclosure of state agencies, transfer rights, especially transactional data, definition of the scope of individual data, privacy rights, etc., etc. These are key parameters for integrating the globally dispersed innovation hubs. Of course, we're talking about technical standards, procedural standards for international compatibility, and finally, and this is no longer data-driven, but really concerning the hardware of innovation, we are talking about the cross-border mobility of high-skilled experts and personnel as one final crucial parameter which can strengthen European East Asian relations in terms of a transnational modern innovation system. Thank you very much.